bachelor degrees for university for acting, and I got into the one down in Wagga. I did that for 2 years, left, got involved in some really good professional amateur theatre with a guy called Richard Hayes Marshall, and that was pretty cool. And this is when I was like 20, 21, 22, 23, that kind of thing. And I worked with his theatre company for 3 years, and that's where I learned acting. And he comes from the Jacques Lecoq school, and then works on did a lot of what we call personage work, so first personage, second personage, third personage. And these are characters that we have within us that we can play, right? But they're connected to an organic part of who we are, right? So my first personage, as an example, right, is a guy, a man that's got developmental delay issues around, say, intellect and things like that. And that's a role I learnt to play very, very early on in life, given my history. Second personage for me is a rock star, right? Someone who's actually very, very comfortable being the centre of attention, right? Very comfortable entertaining others, making sure everyone's having a great time. Okay. Third personage is the salesman. So he's slick, he's ahead of the game, he's leading the conversation, knowing where it's going to go, manipulating the person on the other side to get to a point, to achieve his own outcomes. Okay. So they're the building blocks of how I act. And all the characters I perform have a certain aspect of either first, second, or third personage. Okay. Then you've got things like, clown, traditional clowns. This is my theatre training. Melodrama, proper melodrama for stage, things like that. Anyway, I finish. While I'm doing all of this, I'm also an alcoholic practicing alcoholism, right? Drinking, drugging, carrying on. And Richard eventually kicked me out of that theatre company for those reasons, right? He said, mate, I just can't, I need you to be reliable, and you're not reliable. I don't know which Nick's going to walk into the room. I'd show up to rehearsals and training. Like, we'd train for about 4, 5, 6 hours a day. It was very, very physical, like acrobatics and everything like that. And then we'd rehearse for about 4 hours a day. And sometimes I'd come in, hit the theatre at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'd still be drunk from the night before, or just alcohol just coming out of me, like seeping out of my pores. So after about 3 years, he had enough, kicked me out, and that's okay. I just drank and drank and drank until I could drink no more, and then I ended up in rehab for a year. Well, I did rehab for a week, but then detox for a week and rehab for a year, and that was out of Lisa's place. It's not around anymore, but it's very, very good rehab. Very brutally honest. From there, I thought, well, where do I go? I'm 29. I haven't really done anything with my life. I kind of half finished everything, but never finished anything. So I'd done a lot of telesales work in between acting gigs, and I kind of enjoyed that. But it was always like part-time and, just nothing serious. And I thought, if I'm not going to be an actor, maybe I can be a salesman. So I ended up getting a job selling advertising on the back of shopping dockets, and that was good for what it was. But it was pretty much, just cold calling businesses trying to sell advertising on the back of dockets. I did well there, but I heard of corporate hospitality. So corporate hospitality is where you sell the VIP stuff to all the major corporates. So I started at a company called Corporate Sports Australia and worked there for 10 years. I looked around, no one there was a rocket scientist, but what they were really good at was talking to blokes about sport and business, right? So I became really good at that. And I was earning like 230, 240 grand a year, within the first 3 years, 4 years. I was making more money than I knew existed. I had no idea what to do with it, and I blew all of it, basically. Now I thought, what I need to do is get married, and I got married, had kids, bought houses, decided I need to run my own business. I've been at corporate sports for like 10 years, and decided I need to run my own business and make more money. So, because I was always trying to get something outside of myself, and when I got it, that wasn't enough. I needed to get more, same old, same old. And eventually, I started my own business. I didn't know how to run a business or anything like that. My philosophy was, if I make enough sales, I'll be fine. Anyway, long story short, after 5 years, I went bankrupt, lost the house, lost the money, lost the family, lost everything. And I know I'm not unique in that, but it's one hell of a punch in the guts when it happens. And then, what do you do when you lost everything? You're 50. Fuck. I hadn't really done the work necessary with AA, like the 12 steps. I hadn't really done any of that type of work. I'd tried, but not really. So I ended up going back to AA. 16 years sober, 17 years sober, something like that, mate. 18, 19 years sober. And I hadn't done AA for years and years and years. I just hadn't drank. So I hadn't done any of the work necessary. I ended up doing that work. It took me a while to find the right people, but I found a group that really addressed the core issues of alcoholism, which isn't alcohol, by the way. It's more of a spiritual issue. And I did the work. I started to get well. I started to find that connection between me and God, not external but internal within me. I started to live the life I wanted to live. I'm working at the men's health clinic at the moment, and I've been there for nearly 4 years. So my time there has more or less come to an end, but I'm in the middle of trying to put together a resume and maybe find more employment elsewhere. In the midst of all of that, this desire to act hasn't left. It's still there. Now, when I was running a business or going bankrupt or making $250,000 a year, I didn't have that desire. Now I'm not doing any of that. It'd be okay if it was just a passing fad and I moved on to something else and got on with my life. Because at 56, it's time to get on with my life, But what do? I've got this innate pull to not just act, but to perform, to entertain, to, at 56, to have some type of opinion about things or impact on the world. I don't mean in a great way. I just mean that, by the time you hit your mid-50s, you've got a bit of life under your belt. You've got a bit of experience. And maybe there's, some people have a desire to share that. And that's really where I'm at right now. I'm not acting. I haven't done acting for, 25 years? Something like that, 30 years. I'm good at sales because I'm interested in people, right? I'm interested in people because I think people are fascinating, and I connect with them that way. And there's a performance aspect to sales, but that isn't enough, right? I mean, it isn't enough. There's something inside of me that won't leave me, that demands that I actually pursue this course of action. So at 56, I'm broke as I've ever been. I've got an ex-wife and 2 teenage girls that I'm currently living with. They've asked me to move back in because they find life really difficult, and I kind of bring a stabilising force there. They might say different from time to time, but that's the truth. I'm incredibly overweight because for 25 years all I did was sit on my backside. I've got some issues around my hips. I've had both hips replaced, and I've got to somehow put together a life that allows me to meet my responsibilities and follow this innate pull to write, create, perform, and so on. And that's where I am right now. So, you know, I don't want to be the guy that they get to play the fat guy, right? Nothing wrong with playing the fat guy. Sometimes fat guys get the best roles, right? Because they're great character roles. But that's not all I want to do. I actually want to. I'm a character actor, and I think the most powerful thing that an artist can ever do is to hold up. Shakespeare said it. Hold up a mirror to nature. Not so much try to stand on a soapbox and argue an agenda, but actually show human nature for what it is, at its best and also at its worst. And I think that's what artists do. Now, I'm a complete and utter nobody in the realms of entertainment or anything like that. I'm literally a nobody. That's okay. Everybody's a nobody till they become a somebody. No one knows me in the acting world. I have a few very loose connections from 20, 30 years ago, but nothing that I can actually pursue at the moment. Where I am right now, and why we're having this talk, is because I become a superstar. I don't even have to get work, but I have to pursue it. I have to pursue it. I don't care if I win or lose, but if I don't pursue this, I'll die unhappy. And at 56, I'm not going to die any day soon, but at 56, I know I've got more of my life behind me than in front of me, and I don't want to die unhappy. I don't mind dying if I give it my all and I fail, fine. Totally fine with that. But if I don't give it my all and fail, well then that's fucked, and I cannot live with that. So, where are we? So, that brings me to now, and to the conversations we're having. I've got some ideas. I know that if I'm actually going to re-enter that industry, I have to have something of value to offer, right? And it has to be offered in a manner that's going to be acceptable and palatable by the industry. That's fine. That's just the way it is. So this is my journey between coming to that realisation that I cannot avoid this any longer. You could put 100 grand, you could put 300 grand in my bank account and say every year we'll pay you 300 grand, Nick, and I'm broke, like dead broke. And that'd be great, and I'd love you for it, but I'd still be unhappy because money doesn't make me happy. Money doesn't fulfill that thing within me that needs to be fulfilled. And that is, I don't know what to call it, creativity, destiny, whatever you want to call it. There's something that I'm not addressing, and nothing can fix that. Not money, not women, not prestige, not anything. I have to address that. I have no choice now. And it's not like I've run out of time. I haven't. At 56, it's a late start. But it's a start. I can start from here. On the upside, I got a stack of experience behind me. I know a lot about certain specific areas in life. That's because that's all I've always ever done. So like sales, for 20 plus years I've been doing sales. So I know a ton of sales. I've got life experience under my belt. Now, I think I can take all that life experience and be able to somehow organise it so that I can present a thing to the industry that's called Nick Jones, right? Something that I can actually present myself to the industry. The industry could say, yep, that's fine, that's a value, we can use that. It sounds really weird to be talking about myself in this manner, and I don't usually talk about myself in this manner. But if I have to, this is the conversation that I've had repeatedly over the last 3 months until it's now reached a point where I cannot ignore it any longer and I have to take action. So what does that mean from now? It means, taking care of myself. I've got new teeth. I've got a new set of forces, which is great, so I look okay there. I've got to get my body back into shape. I've got about 50, 60 kilos overweight. That's difficult, right? That can't happen in an instant. One thing. There's a few auditions that I see on Facebook that I think I might go for, like present myself with. Thing is, I don't have a headshot and I don't have a CV. I've been out of the game for 25 years, a quarter of a century. So I'm going to have to rebuild small. That's okay. This is how you get big. You don't get big by being big. You get big by doing small things, stacking them on top of each other. I know from life that success is built upon failure and learning, right? So you stack a little success on top of another little success, on top of another little success, and after a while you got a decent amount of success behind you, okay? And then it's a matter of being, do I have something that's going to be of value to others, right, from a commercial sense? And then building it and building it. Now, this might be a pipe dream and it might fail. Fine with that. If I don't attempt it, I'm not fine with that. This might be a pipe dream that might actually lead to success, right? Professional success, commercial success, and that's great. That would be the ideal. But that basically is where I'm at right now.
It's pretty cool.
Is
pretty,
it?
Yeah.
Good. Pretty fucking desperate from my perspective, mate. It's like, yeah, but look, it's a massive job. Ideally, what I want to be doing is creating my own work. I don't want to make Australian movies for Australians. I want to make Australian movies for the world, right? They don't necessarily have to be about Australia. They don't have to be movies. They can be novels. They can be whatever. But I think at this point in time, it's a really, really interesting point in time in world history, and it's not necessarily easy to navigate. But I think in order to get through this particular point in time, what we as society need to do and as a culture need to do is actually remember that at our core we're all the same. We're actually all brothers and sisters. Right? I'm a human being, you're a human being. I have my struggles, I have my victories, you have your struggles, you have your victories. But essentially, we're just people trying to get on. There's a lot of emotionalism. I'm not knocking emotions. Emotions are primary, right? But when emotions are ruling our lives, I think human beings make a huge mess of it. Right? We've got to be able to have the emotion of and passion of what it means to be a human being in all that context. But it has to be controlled and guided. It just can't be let loose. It's chaos otherwise. So there needs to be a certain amount of restraint on emotion in order to move forward in logic and rational way. And I know what it's like to be driven by emotion that's uncontrolled. It's just chaos. My domestic life at the moment, we were talking a minute off camera before. My domestic life at the moment is really difficult. I've got 2 daughters that are challenging. They've got their own challenges. 14 years old, 16 years old, going through their stuff. Trying to be supportive there. When they get emotionally upset, and I've got my ex-wife fighting with my daughters about anything, it's just a nightmare of a house to live in. And I've got to live there and provide stability for those people, right? And not get caught up. And like I was saying earlier, you can't do that if you haven't done your own work. Jung talks about shadow work and going, meeting the shadow and, all of that stuff. One of the things that I've learned, that I've had to learn, is that no matter what the storm is on the outside of the world, no matter what chaos is going on, either professionally or domestically or relationship-wise with others, I need to be able to maintain a core being of peace within me. Because that's my anchor, and I get that through my, as wanky as it sounds, I get that through my relationship with fucking God. Now, that's been hard fought. I've had to fight hard to find that relationship and to connect with God. It means I've got to let go of ego. It means I've got to let go of all these other, things that we have as human beings. Ego, pride, undealt with trauma. All those things that act as a blockage between me connecting with that inner strength of God. But I've done that work and I've connected with that inner strength of God. So when the world is falling apart at 100 miles an hour and no one's wearing their seatbelt metaphorically, I'm able to hold myself strong within myself and be a stabilising influence on others without buying into the emotional, nightmare that they're going through. And that's what my life is like at home sometimes, to be honest. It's tough. It's tough. And it's tough for me, but I know it's even tougher for my 2 daughters, and it's even tougher for my ex-wife, because they don't have what I have. They don't have that solidity within themselves. Okay? My ex-wife has tried, and she does an enormous amount, but when she goes south at an amazing amount of knots, and it's hard for her to hold it together. Having said that, I'm in a very, very good place of where I want to. I know who I am, and I know where I want to go, and I know why I want to go there. Now it's a matter of actually getting up and doing the work. That's it. Huh?
For better or worse?
Yeah, okay. Well, Sydney's changed. Sydney's changed, but it's not so. Everything's changed. So changes can be confronting at times, but they used to be able to. Back in the day, and I sound like an old fart when I say this, but back in the day, school holidays, my parents used to say, and everybody's parents used to say, "You've had breakfast, now get out, and I don't want to see you until lunchtime." Right? That's no longer the case. The use of the advent of the phone and the internet, and what that's done, that's really taken. It's taken a lot how young people interact with their environment. Their environment is very much internal rather than external. So instead of it's very much playing a game or watching a movie or
you know, I can remember walking somewhere, walking through, and you find this random bike jumps being built.
It's what, sorry?
I used to find like bike jumps.
Bike jumps?
Yeah, like the
Yeah,
kids and
yeah.
stuff would make jumps in somebody's cars.
Yeah, we used to do that.
Yeah.
A mate of mine, who's dead now, unfortunately, but a guy that I grew up with, who lived across the road, Craig Wilson, was just, he was the toughest kid I ever knew, growing up, and probably now if you'd lived, but he was the toughest kid that ever knew, and he was a really good, he was brave and courageous, and he led our little gang, and I was like his best mate as a kid. And we used to do things like that. We'd go over to Gladesville Psychiatric Hospital. They've got a big swimming pool there. And we'd make jumps leading up into the water. And, or he'd practice bunny hopping. But he'd bunny hop over all the people, all the neighbourhood kids on his BMX bike.
That's up, yeah.
Yeah, and build little bike jumps and all of that.
Yeah, I remember before he was the age of 12, all the older kids used to dare the younger ones.
Yeah.
Like, who's brave enough to be lying there
Yeah.
jump over.
Yeah. And because I was his best mate, I would always be the last guy.
Yeah, the last one. That was the major test. He's the last
Because that's the one, if he's going to hit, he's going to hit that one.
Yeah.
So I had to sit there. I had to lie down there while he jumps over us. Look, I don't think he ever landed on us, but he'd clip us. Yeah, he'd clip us on occasion, but he never actually landed on us, which was good.
Yeah.
But how has Sydney changed?
Yeah.
Well, Sydney's changed. It's become bigger, a hell of a lot bigger. It's become... Look, it's really quite a difficult question to answer because I don't get out that much in Sydney. I go to work, I come home, right? I'm in the car or I'm catching an Uber. I think that the landscape's changed. They've started, and this is, where do you put people? You got to put people somewhere. If you don't have enough houses, you got to build more. But houses are expensive, right? So not everyone can afford one. So they build units, high-density units. And people are doing the best they can. But oftentimes people, what's that song? Little houses on the hillside, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes full of ticky-tacky little boxes. There's that song from the 1940s or something, whatever. But it's talking about they're little boxes on the hillside. Now, in high-density housing, what do? You got your little box, right? That's yours. How many people know their next door neighbour? Right? How many people know the guy in the unit above them, or the woman across across the hallway? You might glance as you're leaving or entering. It's hi. That's it. When we grew up, we knew everybody in the street. We knew everybody in the street. That reminds me of a funny little incident once. My parents divorced when I was like 16, right? So we moved out of our house and sold the house, and I was living with my dad. And I was it was a few years after that, I was about 18, 19, I was in a pub. Bathroom, so I'm in the bathroom having a wee, and a guy walked in, and he goes, Nick Jones, right? And he'd had a few, I'd had a few. I'd turn around, it was a guy, one of my mates from down the road, right? And we lived in a cul-de-sac, so it was a dead-end street, Glades Avenue. 40 Ross Street and Glades Avenue, and we were on, address 40 Ross Street, we were Glades Avenue. And that's where the front of the house was, so that was our little street. And he goes, oh man, we miss you guys in the street. Oh, dude, we miss you. Where you living? Well, I'm living in Balmain. Where you living? Oh, I'm still at Glades Avenue. And he goes, Nick, I'll tell you what, the street is so quiet since the Joneses moved out, mate. It's so quiet. We want the Joneses back because there was always something going on at your place. There were fights here, there were fights there, but everyone got on, but there was always something going on. So we don't know our next door neighbours anymore. And that's sad because we're all in this together. At the end of the day, we're all in this together. We're all trying to just get on, have our life, live our life, you know, put food on the table, raise our children, you know, have a job, have a career, have a life, and it's over very, very quickly. You know what I mean? It's over very, very quickly. But I think the main thing that I think that's changed is that people don't know each other anymore. So those relationships with the people that you live around don't really exist anymore. That's why, you know, the internet's taken that role. You know, you can still join sporting clubs. You know, people still do that, which is great. But for a lot of people, you know, they really can spend their entire day not interacting with anybody. Yeah, so how's Sydney changed? It's become a hell of a lot bigger. I think it's become harsher. I think the world's become a harsher place. And I think, and now we're going to get a bit, you know, controversial. I think that men don't really know what their role is anymore. Used to be the provider. They'd go to work and they'd provide. That's no longer the case. I mean, men do go to work, but women work and more capable of, or just as capable as men as providing income. We buy bigger houses which require both parents to work. So now we've got these bigger houses that, you know, we struggle to pay off. So because we want a nice place for our family, but because everybody's working to try to pay the house off, the family suffers. You know, the quality of life. And I think quality of life is important. It's important not to just be successful and have money, but it's important. I think it's more important to have healthy relationships than it is to have a healthy bank account. Now, you can do both. You absolutely can do both, so don't get me wrong. But I think there's a cost for everything, right? Regardless of whether it's financial or not, there is a cost. Okay? And sometimes people don't realise that until they're stuck in the middle of paying the cost. And then they're kind of like, trapped, what do I do? So, look, life, I might sound like I'm whinging, I'm not. Well, I am, but what I'm saying is it's a really complex thing living today. It doesn't have to be, but we've made it probably more complicated than what it needs to be. And I think getting back, you can have the complications, that's fine, right? But getting back, that's why having a solid sense of self, of who you are, what you are, where you are, why you are, right? It's absolutely foundational, right, and primary to having a healthy, enjoyable life experience. Because if you're really lucky, you get to be here for about 85 years, right? 85, maybe 90. And that's you think it's a long time when you're younger, but my God, does it go quick. And at 56, I'm realising that, hey, I've got about 30 odd years in front of me. Now, in 30 years, I can do a lot, but it's time for me to actually do it. And not talk about it or think about it, but actually do it. And like I say, I don't care if I win, I don't care if I lose. I just got to play this fucking game to the best of my ability. And if I do that, I've won, regardless of what the end result is. I think, you know, just slightly segueing to a different thing, I was thinking this morning. Us human beings, we've been kicking around this earth for about 250,000 years. More or less, I mean, biologically, more or less the same as what we were for the last 250,000 years. Haven't really changed that much. Technology's changed, our understandings have changed, but really we're the same person. We're the same animal. I believe in we're being created by God, right? But we've been created by God in a particular way. And it used to be that our biggest problem was staying alive. We've kind of solved that problem. Not everybody on the planet. There's so much wrong with where we're at as a species, but we've basically solved the problem of staying alive. Now what the hell do we do? Because Western society has taken us to a point where we're so comfortable in our day-to-day life that it's actually unhealthy for us. I mean, I'm smoking cigarettes and I'm overweight. And that's because I don't do anything. I used to have to go and do things. You know what I mean? We used to have to walk 5 kilometres to find food. Now I press a few buttons, as long as I've got money in my account, I press a few buttons and food comes to me. And it's not really great food, to be honest. A lot of the time it's pretty crappy food. So life is very simple and we've made it very complex. What I want to do is get back to the simplicity of it all. That's what I want to do. It Jones.
No, it's a
It's a funny one because I don't know.
Yeah, sparking point.
Huh?
Talking point.
Talking point, yeah. Fuck, this is nice. So what is this called? It's called Middle Harbour?
Middle Harbour, yeah.
Right. And that's Mossman over there?
Yeah, directly, the first suburb. View of Drummoyne, the Canali Heights, I think. Yes.
Drummoyne?
Yeah. As well. Canali Heights. Banshee Bay will be further up the river than the bay.
In all my life, I've never been here. Are you still filming?
Yeah.
Okay. So, enough of that. Where do I go from here? Get myself in a position where I can re-enter the acting world, but ultimately what I want to be doing is writing and developing my own stories. Stories about life, stories about people, stories about relationships, stories that have to do with everything I want to do. I want to be able to, at its core, it has to resonate with a universal truth. And that's what I mean about making Australian movies for a global audience. I want to be able to make stories that everybody can relate to. So, stories that, you know, an American guy can relate to, but an Indian guy can relate to, that, you know, a South American woman can relate to, that, you know, a guy in Africa can watch a movie and go, fuck yeah, man, I get that. I recognise myself in that, right? And not only just recognising themselves in it, but if I can somehow show that it is possible to go through heartache, go through trauma, go through the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and be happy, be content, and accept the world as it is, and accept others as they are, and still move forward with grace and love. They're the kind of stories I want to write. That's, I think, the biggest value that I can bring to anybody is no matter how hard this is right now, there is joy to be found within this moment, even if it is breaking down and crying, even if it is going through heartache, if someone's, because we all experience heartache where people have let us down or we've let others down. I'm guilty of that. Going through where your expectations aren't met, right? Going through the shit and still being able to when your head hits the pillow, go, that was a shit day, but I know this is just part of life, and there are better days ahead. If I keep moving forward, there are better days ahead. Okay, so question's been asked. What is philosophy? I think philosophy is searching for the truth of life. It's a tough question, I suppose. Yeah, searching. It's a search for truth, which is really hard because is there an objective truth or is all truth subjective? Spend hours on that, days on that. But I think philosophy is for me, is finding a framework or a blueprint for life that acknowledges all aspects of life, the bad and the good, and being able to walk that tightrope across both of them, and be happy. It's not that being happy is the be all and end all. Happy is the wrong word. Content, or not even being content, knowing that life is tragic, but it has to be lived. It has to be embraced. The tragedy of life has to be embraced because there's I don't know whether it was a Dalai Lama or one of those guys, but I remember reading a quote or reading a book by a Franciscan monk called Richard Rohr, and he said compassion is equal parts of profound joy and profound sadness. That is what compassion is. Profound joy, because there is profound joy in life. There absolutely is. This is the most amazing thing that we'll ever have, this life, right? But there is profound sadness, because life is such a heartbreaking experience. And it destroys so many people, right? But being able to understand that profound joy and profound sadness can be encapsulated into a way of moving forward. And that's what compassion is. I think it was either Richard Rohr or the Dalai Lama, I can't remember. Dalai Lama just said, be kind. And, cool, okay, got that. Be kind. Hard to be kind if you're going through shit, though, right? Because in order to be kind, you've got to have grace and space for others. And a lot of people just, many times in my life, I don't have enough space or grace for others. I'm too consumed with myself. So my philosophy is to be able to take both extremes, bring them together and move forward within my own self and also within the people that I come into contact with. Like that guy at the coffee shop, right? He was abrupt. That's okay, but don't be abrupt to me, mate. You know what I mean? No biggie. And when I said something to you, he kind of overheard it, and he goes, "What was that?" And I said, "Mate, you're just a little abrupt." First thing he did was, "Sorry, I didn't mean to be." You know what I mean? So, experience, right? That microcosm, that says it all right there. You got three people coming together at the same place and time, and there's a bit of drama, But it's resolved really quickly simply because, we had space for others. We had compassion for others, I had to say, mate, you're a little abrupt because he was.
Standing over me. You right? You okay? You okay?
But as soon as I said it, he was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, pal.
Yeah.
And then when I paid the bill, again, he apologised.
Yeah.
Which is cool, man. I said, no problem. Had a really nice meal, really nice coffee. Glad we went there.
Yeah.
But, just that little microcosm of experience.
He put himself honest with Discord. It's like, well, of course, God,
At the end of the day, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
That's 100% what it was. It's lunchtime. He's trying to get everything out.
Yeah.
He's got customers he needs to feed. He's got this. And then we show up and we're not sitting at the right table. So he goes, hey, sit down.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, just relax.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure, no worries.
Yeah.
So that's compassion in everyday life. We bump up against everybody. If it's in traffic, it's at work. Our work situation is almost untenable at the moment with the way that our management are trying to make everything more streamlined, but in doing so, they're creating problems, right? And that gets in the way of the sales guys. So, yes, the intention is great. Streamline, make things more efficient, make things, no leakage anywhere. But in doing so, they've actually created other problems that are interfering with the sales department doing their job. Okay, and that's, we've got to play that out, and you've got to sometimes tell someone that doesn't want to be told the truth. The truth is, mate, you're making this more difficult, not easier. But
So, I know last time we were on video, you talked about corporate. So, what's your because business and the corporate world's not going to go away.
No.
So, do you have any? What are your views of corporates now?
Well, the whole corporate world, again.
Side note, before you continue, I work a lot from home and I listen to podcasts as I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to a lot of RFK Jr. stuff.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about a lot of business and stuff, how
right.
economics is changed and
stuff.
Yeah,
he's Democrat, isn't he?
He was, but he's now independent.
Okay.
Yeah, he's running for president.
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
But he talked about how they don't. They got to elect the candidates and stuff to run, and they weren't willing to do that. Sort of
because they want Biden to run again.
Yeah, sort of thing. So, but because of that, he's going independent, sort of thing. But he talks about how the average American person can't put their hands on $1,000 if something goes wrong, and they talked about how large corporations buying houses and stuff now and lands and stuff. And, sort of thing. So I just thought about your updates. Not necessarily his, but just your corporate.
Well, look, the corporate world has again, it's difficult because what we're all trying to do in the corporate world, in the business world, we're all trying to take all those demands that we have, right? Develop a product and then present it to the market that we can sell with enough profit to make money and provide value.
Side note too, but just as you said that, I've heard strong moral arguments that somebody who invented the personal computer has done more for humanity than somebody's running a non-for-profit sort of thing.
Yeah, has done more what?
For humanity.
Yeah, for humanity.
Yeah, and then somebody who's running a non-for-profit sort of thing.
Yeah, well,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But
for example, you got access to your phone, Wi-Fi, so you got access towards online wisdom.
Yeah, I know.
And if your kids are here, you'll be able to pull your phone out and take a picture instantly, sort of thing, or video. So you got that sentimental memories.
Yeah.
So that example one.
Wasn't great for Kodak.
Yeah. So a person your phone is obviously manufactured by a corporation, sold through corporations, and the finances is. You can kind of look at a bank as a corporate, but it's the banking system. Yeah. Sort of thing. So.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, the problem is with Western And I'm not knocking capitalism because it's like democracy. It's not the greatest thing on earth, but it's the best we've got so far, right? So I'm not knocking capitalism. But the way that I think we set it up so that we all become dependent on debt, right? Used to be that banking was a service that ran at a profit, for sure. But it wasn't. It was taking advantage of people. But what we've done now, and look, I'm no expert, but it just seems to be that the way the whole Western economic system and capitalism is set up is that we are dependent on debt because everything is so expensive. Now, what happens, and this is philosophy, right? Advertising, everyone wants to be happy. No one knows what happiness is, but we all want it. So what we think happiness is, if I get that watch, I'm going to be happy, right? If I get that house, I'm going to be happy. I did this. This is how I lost all my money, right? Because I kept wanting things that cost more and more money. My happiness, I believe, should be found within. Doesn't mean you can't have the Rolex. Have the Rolex. But realise it's just a watch. It might be a brilliant watch, but it's just a watch. And I read this report, I can't remember where, recently, that all those luxury brands, the wealthy people don't buy those. Their target market isn't the rich. Their target market is the middle class. Because it's the middle class that want more. They've got enough.
Yeah, because they've got that freedom to think and look at other things, look at movies and just sit at dinners.
And who doesn't want to live in a beautiful house?
But at the same time, they're generating an income.
They're generating an income, but it's always a little bit less than what they want.
They're down here, but they can see enough. They've got enough free time to see the above sort of thing.
Exactly. And they've got the means. People lend them money to buy it. Right, but what happens if people lend you money to buy it? You then got to work to repay the money. So that thing that brings you happiness is now causing you to be controlled by your level of debt.
Just give me a sec. Just to put the debt in perspective, to generate the actual income, that costs money to produce money. So that's where the idea of debt comes into go. Yeah, sort of thing. Like the Reserve Bank makes money or generates money, then it distributes. And you got to pay people to generate that money.
Look, what happens is that when my happiness is found in external things, right, I'm never going to be satisfied because there's always something better. Okay, I'll see you next time.